Hey guys, today's story is about a GM that almost hits every check in the bad GM list. So the first ongoing campaign I played in was a mess in so many ways, and the more that I think about it, the more I realize that our DM basically broke every unwritten rule, and some written ones, throughout the course of our level 1 through 4 adventures. So here's a fun compilation of the disaster, and the unique ways in which he screwed us over. My character in particular. Enjoy! Overview. The campaign was structured as a series of adventures with a simple and linear video game quest structure. Go to a place, kill an enemy, return to home base, get money. Every mission was morally grey, but there were no lasting consequences. So each encounter was edgy and mentally taxing on the good-aligned PCs for no real reason. You kill the goblins, but the human slaves look to be ravaged and broken. Probably best just to put them out of the misery. You defeat the slotty, but the tadpoles are already growing in the bodies of the captured victims. Probably best to just put them out of the misery. And so on. And every destination was weeks of travel away. A straight-line journey with no interesting elements along the way, besides daily random encounters with, again, no interesting aspects or lasting consequences. You come across some wolves, they attack. You come across some travelers, they attack. You come across a bear, and it attacks. The guy also didn't know how to calculate CR correctly, so almost every encounter was overwhelming. My personal favorite being a purple worm encounter at level 4. But it ended non-lethally because if we died, his story would be ruined. So divine intervention saved our butts multiple times. And the source of that divine intervention? His overpowered skeletal Oathbreaker Edgelord Paladin DMPC, who always showed up to drive the plot forward. I'm going to call him Mr. Skeleton Man. He also didn't know how to balance magic items, or just didn't care to. The first magic item that we found was a cursed chess piece that turned our ranger's alignment to lawful evil in session 1. So occasionally he would steal loot from us and go off on his own. And neither he nor the DM did anything when we expressed our frustration. A couple of weeks in, and we found a Jinni lamp with 3 wishes for us. My character used his to bring about the destruction of a major city's gladiatorial arena that he spent years imprisoned in. But because this was a surprise to the DM and he didn't want his story to be altered, he hand-waved it away and there were no consequences. In the distance, you see the building crumble. Anyways, you are headed to the next destination, right? Let's roll some random encounters. The railroad. And this is where we come to our main issue, his story. For as uninspired and uninteresting as it was, it meant the world to him. We couldn't alter it. We couldn't act on our own, and if we tried, a high-level NPC would smack us down into place. And worst of all, every NPC was an edgy jerk. We joined a guild, and my character challenged a veteran to combat for friendly competition. And the dude kicked my butt. Which, I was level 4 at the time, so, whatever. But he then proceeded to go further, to seriously injure me, and then mock me to the others. And he proceeded to make me into a punching bag every time we re-entered the guild house. And around this time, the player of the now evil ranger had quit. So a few sessions later, Edgelord NPC number 37 threw his severed head at us, and said, I took care of your little friend. You'd better watch yourselves. Anyway, the story. This grand narrative that our DM wouldn't let us interfere with. It only existed between him and one other player. Yes, after breezing through a one-session backstory adventure for my character, building a ranger to become a nuisance to us, and ignoring our paladin's backstory completely, our DM focused on his favorite player, and her druid, to be the crux of his campaign. The druid had been the clear DM favorite since the beginning, but we didn't know how bad it was until the game dissolved and she told us all the secrets and plans that he had for her character. She got the most magic items, even more than the ranger who stole ours. She got a direwolf companion after our second encounter, making her the most dangerous PC during the entirety of our playtime. She had favor with the queen for some reason. Meanwhile, the rest of us couldn't even speak with her, and she was treated far better by the NPCs in general. And that's just all of what we saw at the time. It turns out, she had a secret plot brewing to become a lich. The process involved the druid drinking a potion to grow a mushroom and to have little mushroom babies with the queen, because the king was impotent. And if you're wondering, yes, it was most certainly a fetish thing. And in return for her having the little babies with the queen, the level 3 at the time PC would get the formula to lichdom. Unfortunately, the campaign ended before this could come to bear. The endgame. So the reason our story ended was convoluted. Essentially, Mr. Skeleton Man, the DMPC, entrapped my character, and everything went downhill from there. He approached me while I was alone and said, "The next time you see me, I'll have some work to do, and you need to make sure it gets done." There was actually something in it for me as well, but I actually forgot what it was. So, on a quest, we fought some overpowered baddies, and a Deus Ex Machina showed up to help finish them off. We rescued the slaves they were holding, and yes, there were basically slaves at every kind of mission, and we found out that one of them had beef with Mr. Skeleton Man. Skeleton Man declared, "I'm going to kill this man," and our party tried to talk him out of it. He was a captive, and we trusted him. Skeleton Man looked at my player and gave a "this is it" sign. Some of the players tried to restrain Mr. Skeleton Man, while he was too busy monologuing to kill the guy. So I stepped in and did it for him. That, however, was not part of the script. My job was to keep the party off of him, not to kill the guy myself. And so, the downward spiral began. The DM began with, "Your alignment is now evil." Evil? Why? I played this whole campaign good aligned, and the skeleton told me that this was an enemy. At worst, this should tip me into neutral. "Nope, you're evil. And Paladin, you just watched him commit an evil act. You need to do something about it. You need to kill him, or bring him to justice, or your oath is broken, and you'll lose your powers." The Paladin didn't want to hurt my character, since we were the only good members of the party, and frankly, the whole goddamn world we seemed to be in. "Wait," she said. "You didn't make me have to do this to the ranger when he was evil. Why do I have to do it now?" This upset the DM, as I had messed up his story for the last time. "Because I said so, and if you don't, you'll lose your powers." And with this little fallout, the session ended. We went our separate ways, and he texted us, "So what do you think?" And we expressed our frustration, and he got upset in response. The whole time, the campaign had gotten worse and worse, less and less interesting. The DM was devoting all of his effort to a new campaign that we would play once we finished this one. I said, "Hey, it seems like you have a lot on your plate. I can give DMing a shot for a bit, and you can collect your thoughts on this game, or work on the new one." And he of course got offended by this, and claimed that I was just trying to take the game away from him. The Paladin and the Druid both said that they could go for a change of pace. And two new recent additions who had only made it to one session so far, while missing 4, said that they had just made their characters and didn't want to make new ones. The DM had managed to convince the 2 new players that I was stealing the game away from them, and that he was the victim, somehow. And the party split 3 and 3. And in an incredible wall of text that the DM messaged to me, which was about the same size of this post, actually, he expressed that he couldn't bring himself to play in my game, and he was just so incredibly hurt that I didn't love his story and give it the time that it needed to grow into something better. And now the epilogue. So that was how the game ended, and mine began. And 3 years later, I'm about to sit down with a party that I love as they prepare to tackle the lair of an adult black dragon and her army of minions, surrounded by their closest allies and friends from the past. And dang, if I didn't learn my most important lessons in DMing by watching What Not to Do for 3 years prior. Well guys, at least in the end there was kind of a happy ending for the OP. I can only imagine that the 2 newer players that were convinced that he was trying to steal the game from the original DM only found out how wrong they were very quickly. or they just had a very poor attendance and it didn't really matter anyway. But needless to say, don't bring favoritism in D&D. It doesn't work out for anyone really. But in any case, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, maybe think about subscribing and joining my Discord. But, as always, have a good one, and happy holidays. The process involved the druid drinking a potion to grow a mushroom, and have little mushroom babies with the queen to... Okay.